while still being easy for humans to use. The following year, Crown Bees offered its line of products through nurseries, garden centers, and hardware chains. It is no small goal I have in mind. I want to assist with the world's pollination requirements through the use of locally raised mason and leafcutter bees and robust populations of native solitary bees. Given the threats that honeybee populations face, the need to accelerate other methods of pollination is growing quickly. In 2011, I brought together commercial pollinators interested in the mason bee industry, scientists, and food producers to form a professional organization. The Orchard Bee Association now works to collaboratively create standards, processes, and sustainable practices that will, ideally, grow the mason bee industry quickly, which in turn will help keep our food supply from faltering. A wonderful thing happens to gardeners when they try introducing mason bees to their gardens. In emotional terms, it is much like owning a pet. The process frequently starts with an attraction to sheer cuteness or an adorable personality. You take your new animal companion home, and as the relationship develops, you pay more attention to the quality of its food and the availability of clean water. You add a secure fence or satisfying scratching post. Then come important preventative medicines, behavioral training, and making sure its living space is safe, without poisonous snacks or plants lying within reach. You might even find that love triumphs over your initial rules. No dogs on the bed? Good luck with that. Likewise with mason bees. Once you start caring for them, your eyes begin to look beyond your fence, lawn, and landscaping. You now have a specific motivation to care about one kind of bee in particular, rather than a vague concern for all bees everywhere. And why should you be motivated to care for those bees? Listen on, but be warned that it is sobering stuff. When we talk about pollinators, a basic fact often gets passed over. Pollination is fundamentally necessary to humanity's survival. Aside from the wild, plant-filled habitats that sustain our oxygen, globally we cultivate approximately 1,400 types of plant. These produce all the land-based food and plant-based products we rely upon, including cotton and flax for clothing and alfalfa for grazing herds. Of these 1,400 crops, nearly 80% depend on animals for pollination, encompassing a splendid variety of bee species plus bats, butterflies, birds, and moths. If these pollinators fail, so will we. We are not talking about unusual, surprising, or easily replaceable foods either. This goes way beyond the deeply troubled almond industry, which has become something of a poster child in almost every discussion of North American agricultural problems, from colony collapse disorder to drought. Without thriving populations of all species of pollinators, we will lose apples and pears, cherries, peaches, plums, avocados, and most kinds of citrus, as well as those almonds. Closer to the ground, we will lose pumpkins and other squash, melons, cucumbers, and almost every single one of our delicious berries, including blueberries, raspberries, and cranberries. Canola oil? Gone. The deciduous hardwood forests we rely on for wood? Gone, or greatly reduced. Those sturdy trees need pollination for their fertilization just as much as our pretty summertime flower beds do. In North America, we hear most about colony collapse disorder, CCD, which affects only the honeybee. Beekeepers here have been reporting the annual loss of about 30% of their hives for nearly a decade, although in 2014 the annual loss was notably higher. It is less well known that the extensive wild bee die-off in China has had farmers painstakingly pollinating apple trees by hand for the last couple of years. Bees are not kept for their honey by these Chinese farmers, but are critical to them nonetheless. A researcher in Thailand estimated a 10% loss in that country's European honeybee population since 2010, and, due to chemical use and habitat loss, they have few other bee species to rely upon. Kenya used to